Even the most organized people sometimes run out of ideas, energy, and inspiration of what to cook. So I thought I'd simply share with you an honest and helpful video of 5 things I do when I really don't feel like cooking. Let's dive in. I'm a big believer in inspiration, and that's what I'm hoping this channel is for you. But I also really want this channel to be realistic, because so often we see these beautiful plans and perfect documents and look at the people and go, they never have dust on their floors or kids running around and things like that. That's not the reality, and this channel is very focused on reality. I have literally just finished a workout and this was playing on my mind whilst I was working out. So I thought, why don't I just show you how I deal with when inspiration is low, when you don't feel like cooking, when everyone's asking you what's for dinner and you go, dang, I don't know. So let's tackle that today. I'm going to share with you 5 quick, really tangible tips that you can use when everything is just too much. So tip number 1 is to raid my freezer. It's always my first stop. My freezer in my pantry is always my first stop, because whilst I might have ingredients in the house that I could cook something, if I don't feel like cooking, that's kind of the whole point. I just want to heat something up and have it be done with. So today is a great example. My husband is out for work tonight, so I'm just feeding myself, and I have canned soup in the house, but I really didn't want to have canned soup. So instead I go to my freezer and I dig around and I found a chicken soup that I made a while ago and froze a portion for once. So this is going to be dinner tonight. I've let it just defrost in my kitchen, and this is going to be ready for dinner in a little bit. I'm just going to have some bread with this. This has got like veggies and chicken and all sorts of goodness in it. So honestly, the best thing you can do when you don't feel like cooking is if past you started to get in that habit of one for now, one for later, and freeze one. If you're new here, it basically just means that you cook one thing that you have on that day, one thing maybe later in the week, and always freeze at least 1 or 2 portions worth so that you can take that out later, if you have a freezer, that is. So tip number 1 is thank your past self for being so dang organized. The second thing that I always do is remember that I'm not alone, and I go chat to my husband for some ideas of what to cook and or get him to contribute a little bit more to the meal plan. We both have pretty busy work, but I work a little bit less than he does, so I tend to cook more often than he does. But just chatting to someone else, ask your kids, ask your partner, ask your housemates, get some input, and ideally get other people to help you cooking, because all of a sudden, yes, if you need to get dinner on the table tonight, you're going to have to work with what you have in your fridge, freezer, and pantry, and or run down to the supermarket, which is also totally fine. But it's really good to just get other people involved, because when we don't like something, it's because we're sitting alone with a problem and we're in our own head about the problem. So go ask somebody else to help you out and help cook even. So my third tip is to be kind to myself. Quite often what I'll do is I'll have all the best of intentions, and then all of a sudden Saturday and Sunday have passed. I haven't been to the grocery store and I'm like, dang it, what's going on this week? And the week is kind of just unfolding on me. And even for an organized person like me, that does happen. So what I actually do then is I'll bring out my phone and my calendar that's in my phone. Throwing my phone around. I'll bring out my calendar that's in my phone and I'll go, what's actually been going on lately? And I was feeling today that I was a little bit bummed with myself for not having a better plan for the week, but we have had a couple of really busy weeks with life admin, work, social events. I've had a lot less time at home than I normally do to plan and get myself organized. So what I do at these times is that I remind myself of the very simple concept of the majority vote wins. And I got this from James Clear and his book Atomic Habits. I am a huge fan. If you haven't checked that book out, I will link it below. Not sponsored, I just absolutely love it. But habits is really the kind of thing that will help you. And what he talks about with majority vote is like, as long as you do the right or the helpful thing more often than you don't, you'll always move forward. So when it comes to meal planning, if you just do your very best and work with the ingredients that you have and using ingredients up more often than not, you will be absolutely amazed at how far you can come in saving money and staying organized. But for goodness sake, be kind to yourself. We can't have it all sorted all the time. So once I've gone and chat to my husband, tip number 2, this is what I often do. And I literally look at my agenda and go, I don't have extra time this week, and it's okay. So we're just gonna have to work around it. Does that sound familiar to you? Are you being kind to yourself? This is not about coming up with excuses. This is about coming up with solutions and being kind and compassionate to ourselves in the process. Tip number 4 is to go back and raid my fridge, freezer, and pantry again. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So this is all about coming up with a quick meal. And if you haven't already downloaded my totally free meal planner, you can do so down below in the first comment underneath this video. But essentially what I talk about in my meal planner is your signature recipes that you go back to time and time again. So if you have a repertoire of things that you cook all the time, in my case, I quite often make a meat and vegetable stew. I've made it many times here on the channel and in my budget challenges. Check out that playlist up there if you haven't already. But I have a stew that I often make both in summer and winter, which is just packed full of vegetables. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raid my fridge, freezer, and pantry and see if I've got stuff to make a version of that stew so that we can tie ourselves over for a few more days without me having to go to the grocery store. So let me show you how I do that. Well, this is a bit wild because that took me, I don't know, 1 minute. And I raided first of all, I have some bread rolls here from a barbecue we had recently. I'm gonna have 1 or 2 of these with my soup for dinner. So it's like, thank you, freezer. Now, noting I have a pretty small freezer, so I'm sure you've got more stuff on hand. I've got this clearance turkey from Aldi that is starting to get a little bit of freezer burn, so I'm gonna use this as my main protein. But I also found a can of lentils in my pantry. So we're going to use this as well for protein. I've got some diced tomatoes. So I'm only going to use 1 of these because not long ago I made my own chicken stock from a roasted chicken and some vegetables and stuff like that. So I have plenty of chicken stock, so I don't actually need more liquid than that. And then I just have like random assorted vegetables that I didn't have a plan for. I've got so much carrot at the moment, I might even add another one. So, and some garlic, some onion. So this is actually going to turn into a really nutritious meal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this all cut up and prepared, and I'll show you how I do that. And then I'm just going to heat up my dinner, have that whilst this is simmering away on the stove, and we're going to have like, I don't know, 6-7 portions of food here, and I might even freeze one. So that's tip number 4, which is really just to like raid what you have, because even if you feel uninspired, if you have a couple of signature recipes, this stew is one of mine, this is what I come back to time and time again, and just modify it based on what I have on hand. So I reckon that's going to be pretty tasty. And before I get cooking this and showing you what I ended up making, I wanted to share my fifth and final tip, which is check the last time you actually ate out or had takeaway. My husband and I have a separate budget for eating out. I've spoken about that before. If you're curious, our grocery budget for two people, two adults in Australia at the moment is $800 a month. And usually I go under that. And that's all of our household items, including cat food, household related things, cleaning stuff, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff. So $800 a month for two people is our budget. I know many of you out there are over and under that, but that's what works for us. We do also have a separate eating out category. And what I often find is that when my meal planning starts to go off the rails, it's been a really long time since we last had takeaway or went out for dinner. So I take out my handy phone and my calendar again, and we have a look at when did we last do it? Is it actually in the budget? And if it is in the budget, we often give ourselves a night off and just have really simple takeaway. You can also have very inexpensive meals if you don't feel like splurging out on a fancy restaurant. So those are my 5 top tips on how I cope when I'm really running out of energy and inspiration to meal plan and meal prep. But I would love to hear from you. What are your favorite tips and hacks of how you cope when it's a very busy time in life and you just don't have the time, energy, or inspiration to meal plan and meal prep? Please do let me know down there in the comments. If you're looking for some help and inspiration on how to line up your meal planning and meal prepping and making it easier, do download my very free checklist down there in the first comment under this video. And let me know what you thought of that stew. It actually turned out so good, and amazingly, I'm now gonna have a few things that I can actually freeze so that future me won't have to have this problem or the very same problem. So I'm gonna go ahead now and eat my yummy soup and those little bread rolls. I'll show you on the screen here what dinner ended up looking like. Spoiler alert, it will be really tasty because I know that I really liked this soup when I made it last time. And I hope you have an amazing week, and I look forward to see you in my next video.